The world has seen empires rise and fall, but none commanded the fear and the absolute terrifying obedience of the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar. It was a kingdom built on gold, blood, and the towering, almost divine pride of its king. His reign was a testament to the fatal belief that human power, armed with iron and a rigid, unyielding law, could challenge the very heavens and dictate the terms of worship. The world's finest minds, its greatest treasures, and its plundered gods were all gathered there. And the word of Nebuchadnezzar was la, that bent even the will of nations and the conscience of men. His power was an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove of unimaginable, terrifying wealth. But in the midst of this imperial grandeur, in the very heart of the city of Babylon itself, were three young men who had refused to bow their knee. They were Jews, captives from the conquered land of Judah, members of the royal and noble families Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, but the Babylonians knew them by the names of the gods they refused to serve, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were men of profound wisdom, unquestionable integrity, and deep spiritual discipline, appointed to high office within the court, having already proven their mettle by refusing the king's rich, defiling food years earlier. Yet their ultimate loyalty belonged to a king far greater than Nebuchadnezzar, a king whose throne was established in the heavens. Their primary allegiance was not to the earthly crown, but to the divine covenant, a promise they held dearer than life itself, a vow they would not break for any gold image. The king, in a moment of staggering, self-aggrandizing arrogance, decided to unify his vast and diverse empire under a single defining symbol, himself. He commanded the construction of an image, a colossus of pure gold, 90 feet high, a brazen and shining monument to his own power and supposed divinity. It stood on a towering pedestal, a sentinel of hubris catching the sun's glare, daring any eye to look away. He set it up on the wide open plain of Duru, in the province of Babylon, and issued a decree that echoed throughout the vast empire. A decree that demanded absolute, instantaneous submission of the body and the soul. He was demanding a physical action that would confirm a spiritual surrender. The day of dedication was a spectacle of unparalleled imperial might. All the satraps, prefects, governors, counselors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the officials of the province, says the entire administrative body of the empire, the whole mechanism of Babylonian rule, were summoned. The plain of Dura was a sea of people, a testament to the king's absolute command and the pervasive fear it inspired. The entire world was on its knees, save for a small, faithful remnant. A herald, his voice amplified by the vast open plain, his words cutting through the anticipation, cried out the command, "People of all nations, you are hereby commanded, as soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. This is a command you disobey at the peril of your very existence. Your life is forfeit. Your family will pay the price. Whoever does not fall down in worship will immediately be thrown into the midst of a blazing, fiery furnace. Let the consequence be immediate, terrible, and final." The music began, a deafening, terrifying sound that signaled the moment of absolute obedience. It was the sound of a kingdom demanding worship, and instantly the vast multitude of people, representing every nation and tongue under Babylonian control, dropped to their knees. The heavy rustle of thousands of robes and the thud of bodies falling to the ground was the sound of a universal, fearful surrender. But in that enormous, sprawling crowd, three figures, three solitary, courageous silhouettes remained standing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood straight, their eyes fixed not on the gold image, but on the true God. Their stand was not a mistake of timing. It was a defiant, conscious act of faith, a silent refusal to compromise their covenant, a clear, visible line drawn in the sand between submission to man and submission to God. Their bodies were erect, but their hearts were bowed only to the Almighty, inevitably. The jealous rivals and local officials, always looking for a weakness in the king's administration, noticed the defiance. They came before Nebuchadnezzar with a venomous and eager accusation, their voices filled with calculated piety and righteous indignation. "O king, live forever. We must bring a matter of grave importance to your attention. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men pay no heed to you, O king. They do not serve your gods, nor do they worship the image of gold which you have set up. Their rebellion mocks your authority, and their very existence questions your divinity. They must be dealt with severely and immediately. This insult to your golden image is an insult to your very throne." The fury of Nebuchadnezzar was an absolute and terrifying thing. It was a kingly rage, a screaming, uncontrollable beast born of absolute power being challenged. He was livid. His pride, the very foundation of his kingship, had been publicly challenged by 3 of his own trusted officials. He commanded that the 3 men be brought immediately before him. "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Do you truly hold my command in such contempt? You are walking on a razor's edge, treading the line between life and death. I will give you one last chance, a final moment of mercy. When you hear the sound of the music, you must fall down and worship. But if you do not worship, you shall be thrown immediately into a blazing fiery furnace. Then tell me what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? What power is greater than the furnace of Babylon? Show me this God. Name him. I dare you." The entire court held its breath. This was the ultimate moment of decision. The king's challenge was simple: acknowledge the supremacy of Babylon or face the most agonizing death imaginable. But the answer the 3 young men gave, their voices steady and clear, was one of the most sublime and uncompromising declarations of faith in all of Scripture. "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. Our decision is already made. We have resolved this in our hearts. The matter is settled. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. His power is absolute, and he answers to no earthly authority. We know our God is able to perform this miracle, he who is faithful to his covenant. But even if he does not," they continued, adding the final, unshakable layer of their commitment, the non-negotiable core of their faith, "We want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Our lives are in his hands, not yours. Our worship is not for sale. Our God is worthy, regardless of the outcome, and our obedience is not conditional. Our conscience is captive to the word of God alone. We will not compromise the truth for a few more years of life. There is no power in Babylon that can purchase our souls. Our God is bigger than your fire, and our souls belong to him." This was not mere human courage. It was the divine logic of commitment. Whether God chose to deliver them or not, their faith would not waver. Their obedience was not contingent upon a miracle. They had already chosen their king. Their faith was fixed on the character of God, not on the comfort of their circumstances. They feared God more than they feared the fire. For the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The king's fury was now a raging, screaming, uncontrollable inferno. His face was distorted with rage, his features unrecognizable, the very veins standing out on his neck. The furnace, the symbol of his ultimate fiery power, suddenly seemed too small for his vengeance. He commanded that it be heated 7 times hotter than it had ever been heated before. This was to be more than an execution. It was to be a brutal, agonizing demonstration, an object lesson in the cost of defying the son of Babylon. He wanted their last moments to be a testament to his own absolute supremacy, a final, despairing spectacle of his wrath. Nebuchadnezzar commanded his strongest soldiers to tie the 3 men up in their robes, their trousers, their turbans, everything, and throw them into the blazing furnace. The heat was so intense, so supernaturally amplified by the king's rage, that the flames leaped out of the furnace door and instantly killed the mighty soldiers who threw them in. Their fatal obedience to the king cost them their lives. The 3 young men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell into the very heart of the roaring inferno. The heavy iron doors were slammed shut, sealing their fate. Outside, the king stood, watching the smoke and the impossible heat, convinced that his vengeance was complete, that the supremacy of Babylon was confirmed, and that the God of the Hebrews was defeated. But then the unbelievable happened. Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet, his face pale, his eyes wide with utter terror and disbelief. He turned to his stunned advisers, his voice a frantic, desperate shout. "Look! Didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them, bound, into the fire?" "Certainly, O king. 3 men were bound and thrown into the fire. We saw them fall, and the guards were consumed. The execution was carried out precisely as commanded. But I see 4 men, unbound and walking around in the middle of the fire. The fire has no power over them. They are completely unharmed. They are in conversation. They are breathing the fire. And the form of the 4th one looks like a son of the gods. What impossible power is this? I have never witnessed such majesty. This is a holy apparition. Call them out." Inside the furnace, the fire, the consuming agent of destruction, had become their servant. It had burned through the ropes that bound them, setting them free from their restraints. And in the very heart of the inferno, they were not alone. There was a 4th man, a figure of radiant, unearthly light, walking with them in the flames. The fiery furnace, the symbol of Babylonian power, had been transformed into a sanctuary, a hallowed meeting place with the divine. The heat that kills had become the light that saves. The most terrifying place in the empire had become the most holy, because the Lord of glory, the Son of God, was there, the King. Shaken to his core by the sight of the impossible, by the failure of his most absolute power, rushed to the door of the furnace, his voice now pleading, humbled, and awestruck. "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out. Come here. Come out of the fire." The 3 men walked out of the furnace and stood before the king. They were unbound, unharmed, completely untouched by the raging inferno. The gathered officials looked them over in stunned silence. Their robes were not scorched. Not a single hair on their heads was singed. There was no smell of fire on them. The only thing the fire had consumed were the ropes that held them captive. The greatest king in the world fell to his knees before his own captives. Nebuchadnezzar, the proud ruler of Babylon, declared, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants." They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god, except their own God. This is the only God who saves. His power extends even into the flames of my own furnace. Their God has defeated my fire, and my kingdom shall know it. Nebuchadnezzar then issued a new decree, a decree that ratified the supreme power of the true God, that any nation or people who spoke anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be cut into pieces. And he promoted the 3 young men to even higher positions in the province of Babylon. The ultimate failure of the king's pride became the greatest public triumph of God's power. The story of the three young men in the fiery furnace is a profound, glorious, and timeless truth. It is the ultimate testament that true faith is not a guarantee that God will keep us from the fire, but a divine promise that He will be with us in the fire. It teaches us that the flames of trial, persecution, and impossible challenge do not destroy true faith. They merely consume the ropes that bind us, setting us free to walk with the Son of God Himself. The most valuable thing we own is not our comfort, but our conviction.